Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Monday is your weekly microdose of encouragement, inspiration, and miracle grow on your potential as a coach. Here's the way we love to start Mentor Monday every week is actually connecting with you. And two things I'm going to ask you to do. One is just to like, comment, and share. The very least, please do that because that tells Facebook that we're doing a good job. It tells YouTube that we're doing a good job. We're not going to spam you for doing that or anything else. Nothing else is going to happen to you. What we want to do is for aspiring coaches all over the world, we want to be an encouragement and a support, and that helps us do that. Secondly, tell us where you're joining us from. One thing that you're excited about, what you feel life and momentum on in your life. It's very important to us to actually connect with you. And you'll see if you ever join us, I'm very passionate about connecting with people rather than just simply being a talking head. Having said that, this is another week. This is my second and final week where I will not be live. Like we are live streaming right now, but I'm not in our studio right now. I'm actually in Mississippi being a nurse to my mom as she's getting better from a knee surgery. And the thing is that I appreciate all of the support, all of the prayers and everything else. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. And I love the opportunity to actually be there for my mom because she's incredible. And she's always been an incredible support and really an inspiration for me in my life. Over the last couple of weeks, we have been in this series called How to Get Out of Your Own Way. And I'd encourage you to take a look back in time over the last couple of weeks if you've missed that. And really what we've been trying to go after in this series are the things that sabotage, and honestly, self-sabotage is what I see a lot of coaches doing when they are aspiring. They just want to help people. They just want to start their business. They want to be a gift to the world. They want to share their gift to the world. But a lot of times there's things that are popping up. A lot of times cyclical. There's a cycle that pops up. And a lot of people don't know that this thing is perpetually showing up in their life. And so sometimes what you need is to take a step back and have someone help you hone in on what those things really are and give you some tools to be able to address them. And that's what this series is all about. For this week, we're talking about settling for less. Now, one thing that I'm not going to talk about, because I talked about it last week, is that there are some people who settle for less because they actually feel undeserving. I'm not talking about that this week. So if you're someone who's struggling with that, I'd encourage you to go back in time and watch that. What I really believe when it comes to settling for less, I have a very strong opinion about this, and I believe that I'm going to actually convince you of it during this time, is that I actually think that people who are settling for less are not weak people, they're not victims, and they're not broken or anything else. I actually believe this. I believe that people who settle for less are really the most powerful people in the room. As a matter of fact, some of you might not agree with me, but again, I'm going to prove it to you, is that if you are settling, you are actually in a position of power. And there's some key reasons why I know that. Matter of fact, people who are settling are actually usually in a pretty good place. And I say that they're in a position of power because what they have done is that they have a high degree of certainty in their life. When you have a high degree of certainty in your life is predictable. There's not a whole lot of change. There's a couple of things that we can say about that. One is that you're getting exactly what you put into it. What do I mean by that? I mean that what you do, what you choose, what you decide you're going to do or not do, we can pretty much predict what's getting ready to happen. Matter of fact, people who are settling often don't have major changes and major swings that are happening in their life. I'm not saying that they're completely happy about that, but they are reasonably in control. So that there's a high degree of certainty in their life, and that's actually what they're creating. Their life's actually pretty good in most cases. It's not perfect, it's not amazing, it's not extraordinary, but it's good, and sometimes they've told themselves that they are content with how things are. Here's the second thing I'll say about that. Second thing that I would say to demonstrate that someone's actually in a position of power is that you really are getting exactly what you choose. What a lot of people don't realize is that the life that we have right now, presently, whether you love it or not, whether you like it or not, It's a series of choices that have given you the life that you have, the friends you have, the place that you live, the job that you work, and everything else. What we have to understand is that no one's forcing you to do any of those things. No one is actually taking control of the wheel. No one's actually taking control of your hands and making you choose the things that you are doing. At the end of the day, you're the most powerful person in your life. If anybody tries to tell me, well, I don't have a choice in the matter, I have to do that, that's not true at all. Every one of us has choices. And the life that you have is a series of choices. Now, some of them might have been made 3 months ago, 6 months ago, or a year or whatever, or it might have just been last week. But literally everything that we have in our life right now is a series of choices. It proves that you are a powerful person. And if you are settling, listen, you are in the most powerful position ever in your life to actually do something, to change what's going on in your life. So rather than having the idea that some people do, that people have a life that they're settling for because they think that they are broken or they are a victim or they are hurting, I actually believe the complete opposite about that. Here's what I believe settling really is. Settling is when you are choosing good over best. It's when you're choosing good over best. Because settling is when you are choosing what is over what is destined to be. A lot of people like to talk about destiny. A lot of people like to talk about purpose. A lot of people like to talk about meaning or wishing that they had it or whatever. Well, that's a choice. Because every day I make powerful decisions. Whether they are great decisions or not, they're powerful decisions from the standpoint of I am the person making the decision. So the power is in my control of choosing whatever I want actually in my life. Well, the thing is that I have to understand that in many cases I'm choosing what's good, what's predictable, what is within reasonable control of my life, or I'm choosing something new to have a different outcome. You can't have a different life if you keep choosing the same thing over and over again. And most of the time we choose what's good over what's best. Matter of fact, there's plenty of people who are not fully living into meaning, purpose, and destiny over their life, and it's their choice. See, the life that we are living right now may or may not be our destiny. I don't believe that there is a cosmic plan over our life to keep us in a very uninfluential position, to keep us down, to keep us playing a small game or anything else. I really believe that there is a huge destiny. This is what I really believe, that there is a huge destiny and purpose over your life, but you may or may not fulfill that potential. It all comes down to what you actually choose. And many times we're choosing small ball. We're choosing a small game. We're choosing the same kinds of choices that in many cases are really safe, and we don't actually reach into what was actually meant for us in our life. I believe the future is wide open for you. I believe that your potential is as big as you want it to be. I believe that the meaning and purpose over your life is undefined unless you actually define it. I believe that this destiny over our life is up to you to choose, and you can choose this at any given point. Your life story has not been completely written. The final chapter is not over, and that also means that today I can choose where my destiny is going to bring me. Now, the next thing that I'm going to say is probably going to offend some of you, and I'm going to take a chance on equity and that you're going to hear me out when I say this. See, because what I believe is that settling at its core is selfishness. Now, some of you probably don't like that, and I don't blame you because a lot of people probably wouldn't like that, but hear me out. Settling selfishness because it's when we're self-absorbed. It's when we are using that reasonable control over our life to protect the bubble that we are living in. That's why it's selfish at its core. Is because I'm using the most powerful force right now on the planet known to me, and that's my choice. And I'm using that choice to create boundaries that protect me rather than choosing destiny, purpose, choosing what's hard or anything else. I'm going to stay in my bubble, and that in and of itself is what selfishness is, because it's only thinking about how things impact me and affect me. It's choosing right now to use the powerful position that I have, the powerful choice that I have to actually stay where I'm at. And in and of itself, that is the root of selfishness. Let me give you a couple of ideas around this. See, because settling is a conscious choice. Settling is a conscious choice to avoid conflict. Now, why would I say that we're trying to avoid conflict? Because the first thing that you're going to encounter if you go after something that is bigger than settling is that you're going to experience conflict. Now, there's this word that we see in the world every now and then, and it's that word peace, and a lot of people talk about it. Inner peace, peace in the world, all of this other kinds of stuff. And one of the things that's been true, particularly about our middle daughter, she's a teenager, and one of the things that I've told her from the very beginning, I've seen this in her, and I've always called her up to this in her, as far as her life is concerned and everything else, is that she's a peacemaker. Now, a peacemaker is not a peacekeeper. A lot of times when we use the word peace, we actually think that peace means an absence of conflict. We think that that peace means absence of war and everything else. That's not peace at all. That is actually harmony. Harmony, I'm not saying that there's not a place for it, because sometimes we need harmony. We can't make peace every time. Like if I'm driving down the street, or not necessarily down the street, let's say that I'm on a long trip, 5 hours, 6 hours, something like that. And the kids are going crazy and they're going at it. You know what we need sometimes? Sometimes we need to keep the peace. Sometimes we need to create harmony. And you know what we do with that? Everybody stop talking to each other. You guys are out of control, and I don't want anybody talking for the rest of the drive or something like that. So parents will do those kinds of things. You know what we're doing? We're doing a short-term fix to conflict because everything's out of control, and this isn't the right place to actually deal with it. But if you're going to make peace, you know what that means? Is that you are going to engage in conflict, because peace is not everybody just tolerating like, okay, we have difference of opinion and I'm hurt over here. Like, you know what peace really is? It's when someone comes to restoration, full wholeness, prosperity of soul. Like, it's not just about money. It's when we come to a place where we have addressed every broken area. We have addressed every conflict, and now we have fully honored other people, but we've honored ourselves. There's this complete picture of wholeness. It's not tolerating insincerity. It's not tolerating a lack of honor and integrity. It's a really, really big thing. And it takes a bold person to go after peace. And that's why I like to watch my daughter, and she calls people on their stuff. She doesn't tolerate a relationship that is not based on honor and integrity. And I watch her reach out for those things. And I've even had her in her life call me out on stuff. Now, let's compare that to someone who's in a friendship or a marriage. And you're like, oh, I've got some good friends. Why don't you have amazing friends? Well, you know, I've got a good marriage. Why don't you have an amazing, extraordinary marriage? Here's why. We're avoiding conflict. Because to get to that next level means that I'm going to have to address some things. Some of those things are going to be in me, but also it means that I'm going to have to call that other person really high. And so what we do, rather than entering the conflict, we take a step back and we settle for good instead of what we were destined for, which is total meaning, and what I would say is totally restored to what we were really made to be. Because until we are living fully in that, then it means that I'm withdrawing, I'm being self-absorbed, and I'm creating a place where it's settled, it's not great, but it's good, right? And again, good is not good enough when we know that there's something in our heart that's more. Here's the second thing that I'll tell you. Settling is a conscious choice to avoid discomfort. Because we are all creatures of comfort. And this is one of the things that you're going to always see with regard to your future clients, if you're a coach, is that you're going to see that most people are settling for what is comfortable. And it's uncomfortable to go to places where you haven't been tested, to go into these places where you're going to have to engage in conflict. You're going to have to do something new. You're going to have to grow in skills. You're going to have to grow in character to go to that place. But see, settling allows us to lie down and actually lie to ourselves that comforts the ideal. As I've said before, that people will avoid pain more than they will pursue pleasure. Like pain's a greater motivator for change, or it's a greater motivator to stay out of change and keep you where you are. And so most people in the world are actually going to choose comfort over what is actually possible in their life, which is incredibly sad. Here's the next thing. Settling is a conscious choice to not take ownership. And let's face it, you are a powerful person if you can make a choice and it's predictable. That's a powerful person. You're essentially predicting the future. You're essentially creating the future whenever you make a choice. But see, when you won't take ownership, what that really means in our life, if I won't take ownership, you know what ends up happening? Is that there ends up being a vacuum of power. And there's not really a vacuum of power for very long. See, because you won't take ownership, what that means is that probably an unworthy individual or a negative circumstance is going to fill the vacuum because you are the one destined in that moment to take power, to take ownership and say, this is mine, this is not anybody else's. And because you won't, there's never really a vacuum of power or anything else. There's always going to be something, and it's not going to be as great as it could have been because sometimes it's going to be an actual unworthy person. It's going to be an unworthy leader in some cases. It's going to be a person who's not really vetted, that doesn't have the character sometimes. Not that they are evil, but sometimes they don't have the character because you were the one who was supposed to go on stage in that moment and you didn't respond when your number was called. And these are the kinds of people that we've got to choose to be, because when you settle, that means that someone else is going to take ownership of the thing that was actually destined for your hands in that moment. It's not going to just go away. Is it something that was calling your name wasn't actually being responded to, and so now it's somebody else's. Here's the next thing. Is that settling is a conscious choice to give your power away to people and circumstances. And what we're really talking about is that you are conceding your own power. Like, you've shown that your choices can create a sphere of influence, can create a culture, can create something around you. And actually, because your choices are so powerful, it makes that area predictable. What if you went into a bigger place? What if you occupied more space? What if you actually, some of the things that have bothered you in the past, things that have offended you, circumstances that needed someone powerful to step up and say, no, this is not okay anymore. See, because we won't step into that, we could actually have this kind of an influence that is stretched out and has a much bigger territory. But because we are withdrawing, you know what that means? Is that we're actually conceding power. Because you won't use that power of choice for something beyond you, that means that you're literally giving power away. Now, I want you to look at this again, because what is giving your power away to people and circumstances actually causing? Well, it actually has a direct impact on the people who are in your sphere of influence. Like, if you will not choose to get involved, if you will not choose to make a choice that is bigger than you, bigger than what you're making right now, it really changes the watermark at which people live in. Like, imagine if people were actually taking bold, courageous choices, if they were actually using this power of choice for something a little bit more far-reaching than what is currently within their grasp, how the high watermark goes up for everybody because of this. What you have to understand is it's a selfish choice to only live in self-preservation rather than making a choice that actually changes other people's lives. It takes a bold person who will actually get unsettled in their life to start living this kind of life. So enough of the problem. Let's talk about what it actually takes to get unsettled. Here's what it takes to get unsettled. First of all, it takes grieving over the areas where we've settled. Now, I know some of you are like, why do I need to grieve over this thing? You need to grieve over it. It's not simply looking at your life and saying, well, here's some areas where I'm unsatisfied and now I'm going to do something different about it. It's not that. You know what we got to do? Is that we really need to grieve over the fact that we have made choices in light of self-preservation and staying comfortable instead of taking the role that we were meant to play on the planet. See, I don't know of anyone who's going to go to bed at night and say, man, I'm so glad that, like, let's say they're dying. They're on their deathbed. And I don't know anybody who's going to be on their deathbed that's like, you know what, I'm so glad that I didn't overextend myself, that I lived such a comfortable life. No, the reality is that there's going to come a moment when you're actually grieving these things, I believe. I believe that we're going to, at some point in our life, maybe when we get older, but hopefully not when it's too late, that we can actually look at our life and be like, man, you know what? I really could have pushed the envelope. I really could have said something in this moment. I really could have made a really bold choice over here. But instead of waiting until we're at the end of our life, why can't we actually look at our life really honestly, really with some brutal honesty, and look at our life and say, you know what? I need to grieve the fact that I've actually missed opportunities in my life. Like, grieving's not a bad thing. As long as grieving brings us to change in our life, grieving's not a bad thing if it's not keeping us in our past, but it's actually making us make new choices. That's good kinds of grief that we can have that actually moves us forward towards our life. We need to take stock right now of what our safe choices and what our choices to stay in comfort has actually cost people around us, cost us opportunities in the past. Here's what I think. I think that you are living right now with a fraction of the influence that was destined for you in your life. I'm not even talking about money. Money might be one thing or whatever, but you know what? I think of what that actually represents. We've got to grieve the fact that we have a fraction of the intimacy and relationships that we should be having in our life right now. That's not okay. We have to come to this place where we're really not okay, because the reality is that the only way that we're going to go into a new kind of life is when we finally get unsettled enough, because again, pain is a greater motivator for change. You need to get in touch with your pain. Like, we can mask it and we can try to mask it and act like we're apathetic and we don't care. Your life doesn't make any sense if you don't have an ambition for it. You've got to grieve this, and you've got to seize an ambition, which leads me to the second point, is that you've got to seize the there must be more feeling. What am I talking about? Well, I believe that we can kind of sum it up like this. There's this feeling in us that tells us, and here's what I believe for every one of you who are listening to me right now. There's a feeling in your heart where you say, I was meant for more than this. That is the feeling to seize. When you know that there is potential that you have not reached and you're like, I know I have more potential than this. That is what the feeling is that I'm talking about. If you've ever felt this sense that there was more meaning and purpose than what you have grabbed a hold of in your life, then that is the feeling. And you know what the feeling is telling us? That feeling that there is more, that feeling that you haven't reached potential, means that it exists. See, the feeling is response to something that is actually in existence right now. And that means that we can grab a hold of it, we can lean into it, and we can live into it. And we've got to seize what we are actually feeling and utilize it. Here's the next thing, is that we need to do some self-talk. And you know what that self-talk looks like? It looks like apologizing to yourself for conceding. Because we have to be honest with ourselves. It might actually mean that you need to look into the mirror and you're like, listen, Paul, I'm sorry that I have conceded my powerful position of choice and taking action in my life. I am so sorry that up to now I have lived in the safety zone, I've lived in predictability, and I've made all of that stuff, I've made life as easy as it could possibly be. Then you make a promise. Paul, you know what? I am taking control of every area that's been placed in my hands. Today, I'm going to speak to my body. I'm going to speak to my mind. I'm going to speak to my emotions. And I'm telling them, mind, emotions, body, We are putting it all on the line to live a life of meaning and purpose. We're going to live a life of significance. And pain is not as great as staying where we are. We can't stay where we are anymore. We have to live into this life of significance. We have to grab a hold of this thing that we were actually meant for. Body, mind, and emotions, you are going to serve meaning and purpose and figuring out what we are here for rather than serving comfort. This is the way that we've got to talk. Listen, your emotions will follow whatever you determine for you. Your body will follow whatever you determine is the new norm that you're going to live by. And here's the fourth thing. The fourth thing is this, is that today you choose one area with a specific action where you're going to start. What's the area that's most important to you? What is the area that frustrates you the most? What is the area that, if you're honest, would keep you up at night if you allowed it to? Grab a hold of that area and today make a specific action, like a decisive, specific action towards those things to do something different. See, we can't just do like these, speak these things over us and hope one day that we're going to believe it. You'll actually start believing it once you start taking action. We've got to teach our emotions how to feel. And we've got to even teach our physical body to submit to what we actually want in our life. And you know what? They'll follow suit. It'll get to where instead of your body looking for safety and your emotions looking for safety all the time and looking for what's comfortable, is that your body will suddenly start waking up at certain times of the night, maybe even waking you up earlier in the morning than what you're used to, and saying, listen, we're ready for purpose. That is the new north. This is the new normal. You will actually teach your emotions and your body how to act, because right now they're undisciplined. And sometimes your emotions and your body is just looking for what's comfortable. Well, listen, my mind can step outside of that and it can dictate what is the new normal and how we're going to live our lives. This is the way that we begin to get unsettled, and this is the way that we start living into meaning and purpose in everything that we were made for. Let me pay the bills really quickly. For those of you who have not gotten trained and certified as a coach, we have an opportunity for you, and it's called Jumpstart Your Coaching Practice. Now, obviously in our school, you can simply come into our life coach certification course and you can get trained and certified as a coach. But our big value as a school is not to just be one-dimensional, where we teach coaching proficiency. What our desire is that you would thrive in your life, and the overflow of that is that your practice would also thrive as well. So we created Jumpstart with this whole intention to take care of a couple of things. One, coaching proficiency, because not only do you get the life coach certification course inside of your Jumpstart program, but you also get our live coaching bootcamp. It's an entire weekend where we go Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, intensive training on the core competencies of coaching. Every session that we do ends with a live Q&A. And we also have live role playing. We also give you a lot of tools over the course of that weekend. We want you to be the most proficient coach that you can be. And we also include 90 days of replays after that boot camp is over with, so that you can really catch what coaching is about, because coaching is really more caught than taught. We also give you brand camps. Some of you have no idea how to do branding, how to do marketing messaging, how to design a website, color schemes, how to write an email. Well, you know what? We cover all of those things over the course of Brand Camp. It's about 10 to 12 hours of additional training that you get immediately when you sign up for boot camp. Sign up for Jumpstart. Jumpstart itself is a 30-plus module business development roadmap. And we show you all of the things from beginning to end, your how-to step, because what our intention is to make it as simple as possible, to take all of the guesswork out and give you the real how-tos on how to actually start a coaching practice. For me, and it's really important for you to know, that I'm a multi-six-figure coach. Why is that important for you to know? Is that what we're going to actually teach you is not just simply the skills of coaching, but we're going to show you how to actually build a coaching practice authentically around you. Not a shrink-wrapped plan, but that you would know what your next step is. And in everything that we do, we're always going after the mindsets and belief systems, because we want our coaches to thrive. We realize that sometimes the how-tos aren't really the biggest barriers in your life, that sometimes it's what's going on in your head. We show you how to create multiple streams of income as a coach. We show you how to have an explosive first coaching session. We actually give you a template for that inside of Jumpstart. There's so many tips, tools, everything that we give you. Also, we have a live call every Wednesday for the students who are part of that program where you can ask any questions that you have. We do additional trainings, additional workshops every month. We also give you feedback on anything that you're working on. This would normally cost thousands of dollars. The price is only $97 a month. That's $3.25 a day, or the cost of Starbucks. And I'd also have to add to this, we also have an online community. So all the students who are part of Jumpstart can actually connect with one another and get feedback and encouragement from one another all the time. This is what we've created. It's what I really wish I would have had when I started out as a coach. And it could have propelled me and accelerated my coaching practice so much further if I would have had those kinds of people and that kind of support in my life. And that's why we've designed it. Listen, I appreciate every one of you immensely. Thank you for everyone who I know has commented during this time. We're watching that live. Thank you again for all of your thoughts and prayers for me and my family and my mom as I'm taking care of her this week. And next week, I will be back in California. I'll actually be back in the studio, and we will be doing this again as we can continue this series. Listen, I believe in you. Have a great rest of your week, and take care.